Hello and welcome to Conversations with Elise Quevedo. Not long since we got back from Mobile World Congress Barcelona, which showcased how the digital ecosystem can shape the industry and society through the power of technology. And I wanted to have a quick chat about first impressions and a recap of how it felt to see people in person again. So for that, I am joined by the one and only Edwin Diender, Chief Innovation Officer of the Global Energy Business Unit at Huawei's Enterprise Business Group. Hello, Edwin. Long time no see. How are you today?
Hello, and indeed a long time no see. And it was great to see you in person in Barcelona, just like it was great to see everybody else in person in Barcelona.
It was great to see you in person, although we have spoken over Zoom multiple times. I have to say, Edwin, nothing beats those face-to-face meetings. So, Edwin, what were your first impressions after being back at Mobile World Congress Barcelona? And how did it feel for you to see a venue with over 60,000 people in attendance after so long?
Yeah, it was it was awkward, it was strange, it was exciting and invigorating all at the same time. Kudos to the GSMA and the organizers of the MWC, because what they've been able to show is that in the current, even high-risk times as we are part of and that we're living in, it is highly doable to create an environment that is safe, that is secure, and that can be managed in such a way that large groups of people can gather, can come together for an industry event, which has a significance to the industry, such as MWC. And I think that is one of the key takeaways, certainly for me, on a wider scale. On a personal scale, as I said, not only you and I, but me with others, others with others, have had different get-togethers, information sharing on a personal note, in one-on-one, and at some point it became more remote, more virtual, more offline and more offline, online, but certainly not on site anymore. So to now be able to be online and offline, to be on site and off site, having a hybrid, very strongly organized way of meeting, engaging and collaborating with people, but also information sharing is one of the key takeaways and one of the best key takeaways that I currently have of the past events that I was part of, also in person.
Absolutely, Edwin, and I absolutely agree with you in regards the possibility of being able to do these hybrid events. I was there last year in 2021, and it didn't feel the same, but it was a vote of confidence by GSMA. About 20,000 people attended last year. They needed to do that to show the world these events can happen safely regardless of what's going on with the pandemic. Luckily, the pandemic is getting lighter and lighter every week. Restrictions are being lifted around the world. And we show that even with 60,000 people attending in person, with safety, with tests, we went, we connected, we did business, we came out of it, and here we are again on a digital way until we meet in person. So now you spoke about that you were able to meet with many clients in person again, such as the same as I did. Have you noticed, or did you notice anything different? And by that I mean, was it business as usual, or have you noticed the needing people to now accelerate conversations to make business happen faster?
Well, there's a couple of things on that particular point. First of all, we've been gotten very comfortable, maybe even, but certainly common to the idea that work from home is a way of working. And what I find with offices opening up, being able to go back to work in a safe way, is almost like bringing the way of working from home to the office, which is a different way of working than before. I've wrote a blog actually on this, a publication for it, where I make this comparison that the routine of working from home now becomes a routine at the office. And in a meeting, face-to-face, or meeting clients or customers and partners, or even colleagues from other business units or other country teams, for example, who are also able to join us face-to-face and on-site in Barcelona during Mobile World Congress. I noticed that the conversations were shorter, more to the point, also with clients and customers. It kind of could give the idea perhaps that people wanted to, not be too close together too long for obvious reasons. Or it could be, and I don't have any research on it, so there's nothing to validate against it or to benchmark for it, but my gut feeling is there is a sense of urgency. We got to catch up instead of speed up. So it's not accelerating for sake of acceleration, or what the industry sometimes calls, industry acceleration. It is really to catch up. We have lost time, so to speak. And that's why we're getting to the point. It becomes very clear, usually at these large scaled events, the communications are rather generic, strategic, futuristic, maybe even a couple of years ahead. And now they were very pragmatic, very practical, very on point, I would say, and very to the point as well, which I like. But I like it, I guess, from a cultural point of view, because number one, I'm Dutch, I'm from Holland. At number two, I'm from Europe, I'm a European. And I guess that's how Europeans like to do it, but certainly how I like to engage. And for me, that was just wonderful.
I absolutely agree with you in regards to, there wasn't just people wanting to accelerate. What I noticed was exactly the same, the eagerness of people to meet up. Something that I noticed this year was when you are part of GSMA's app, you have to download the app, you sign up. Of course, we've got digital badges now, especially for security. Well, the years before, I didn't see it as oftenly used for networking. And this year I was being hit like pretty much on a daily basis, and prior to the event starting, with people wanting to meet up, to network, to connect. And even if you didn't have a chance to connect in person, they wanted to connect on LinkedIn. They wanted to have proactive conversations. And for me, that was a change. And I think that's also what you mean by that shift. And again, I'm also European, so I definitely understand that mindset of, we want things done. We want action. That's something that I often speak about. Don't just have conversations for the sake of having a conversation. What is the synergy, and can you get a business deal out of something? And if not, move on to the next, because not everything is going to turn out to be business. I remember, for example, you led one of the digital sessions, and there was a professor from South America, and I was fascinated by him because he was talking about education and how during the pandemic, through the partnerships that they've done, one of them being, of course, with Huawei, how they've managed to evolve, how they've managed to actually take action. And now they're in a position of leadership to show other regions, regardless of how much money you have, that if you do have the interest, that if you do have a goal and you do have the right partnerships, you can move forward. And those are the sort of things that this year definitely stood out. It wasn't just the futuristic events we see all the time. This is what will happen by 2030. These are the SDGs, which we hear all the time. We were hearing real cases of today, of the last year, the past 2 years, of things of how they went from A to B and to C. And for me, that was fantastic. And of course, the ultimate purpose with technology, Edwin, as Huawei often says, is bringing the power of connectivity to continue building a fully connected, intelligent world, to dramatically cut energy consumption of ICT infrastructure, and to help the energy industries to also be more efficient in their daily operations. So now can you give me an update on what has been happening in your area since we last spoke last year?
Well, a lot, not only on a global scale, but also on a regional and on a local scale. But I think we all agree that the element of energy transition and the combination of energy transition and digital transformation, these two combined, almost like two gears of the same engine, drive this engine towards carbon neutrality, net zero. And I think that recognition and that acknowledgement is throughout the industry even. The power of digital creates so much more momentum for that. If you look at the KPIs that not even nations, but also organizations or companies, large or small or medium sized, it doesn't matter. The KPIs, the targets that the companies have set for themselves to achieve a certain level of carbon neutrality, for example, if you look at how and where the power of digital comes in, the power of digital comes in to shorten that journey and to reach that carbon neutrality point higher up the value chain than without digital. Earlier, we were speaking about the power of digital in relationship to digital twins of economies, for example, and GDP, you know, a 0.2% of GDP invested in the real economy versus, or physical economy versus that same percentage of that same GDP invested in digital and moving forward. Digital has the power to reach a higher level of return. You are able to reach your targets higher up the value chain in a much shorter time frame. That also goes for energy transition alongside the digital journey. So what we've done throughout this Mobile World Congress is to add the component of green and greener. The fifth generation and next generation of mobile networks are advertising itself in many different ways. But one of the core points that Huawei points out and what that Huawei puts to the test really is that such new generation of mobile broadband connectivity, for example, like the fifth generation of mobile networks, are greener. They are using less power. The production process to produce these pieces of equipment is a greener process. The power consumption of these items are lower. The capacity and the capabilities of these items are much wider and larger and also higher up the value chain, making it more sustainable. And that is on the fifth generation of mobile networks, for example. If you look at the industry where I'm responsible for, I'm sitting in our global energy business unit, the stages that the world of oil and gas, for example, is going through from exploration and production to site management and field management towards the distribution and all the way to the end to gas stations, for example, there is a tremendous amount of optimization to be achieved by using digital technology in workflows and in processes. The industry itself, for example, in a high-performance workplace and collaboration sessions and environment where information is being shared across teams and departments, in daily work for banking, for example, and in hospitals or education or transportation, regular work, there is many tools that help do that. In a very physical, non-digital native environment, for example, like the world of oil and gas, there are so many learning points out of this, what I'm just trying to explain, and bring that towards and map it against all the workflow processes in a physical industry, like, for example, oil and gas, that it helps them not only to do better what they already do best, it does not only help them to be more efficient in their daily operations. What it mostly also does, just like for any other organization, it helps them to become more profitable. And that is not the purpose of it, of course. The real value sits for these organizations to transfer that higher level of profitability into a percentage of the revenue that they are being able to create and a percentage of a higher profit level to reinvest into anything greener, anything renewable, anything new on this journey of energy transition and using digital transformation principles to reach a carbon neutral and zero net environment, or a carbon neutral and a net neutral environment. And this was unheard of. No one would ever think that such an industry like oil and gas would be able to contribute to that, and it does. Another example sits with the way how oil and gas fields, for example, are able to be managed. Huawei has a solution called Smart Campus or Intelligent Campus. If you think of an oil and gas site, it is a campus, it is an area. And digital technology already helps to do that more safe, to optimize daily processes, and to be more efficient in daily operations. So there are many examples on that side of the equation. Another side of the equation is another element in the department that I'm responsible for, which is with power lines, the electricity company, so to speak. Transforming the conventional grid via smart grid and intelligent connectivity principles to support that digital journey towards what I call eventually an energy internet or a world wide web of energy, or if you like to check other verbs on this one, I've coined Energyverse. But that's what we aspire. That's what it's capable, and that is what is able of being to be achieved. And I think Huawei aspires that very much. So all these steps forward are not only to create a greener and more neutral environment, but to create a parallel infrastructure, which is equivalent to worldwide computing networks and worldwide communication networks, but now a worldwide web of energy. And all the systems and services for that, all the platforms regarding that, all the integrations for it, and all the journeys towards that and to achieve that is what we had at display and is what we had to show. If you add it all up and you bring it all together at Mobile World Congress and Huawei's visibility there. That.
Absolutely. And I hope everyone listening is taking notes on what Edwin just said. For everyone that visited Hall 1 during Mobile World Congress, you saw it with your own eyes. He's right. Green technology is what it's all about. And what I want to do this year or over the next few months with you, Edwin, is truly break down what does green technology mean? Because we hear at the moment, I feel sometimes it's a little bit of a buzzword. Everybody says green energy or green technology. And the way, as I've always said since day one, since I met you, you have a magic of breaking down technology terms that everybody can understand. And I feel that companies need to truly understand how they can help the planet. We live in a world where we have way too much, not just technology and power, but we need to leave a better planet for the future generations. And we will not achieve that if we don't go green. But again, what does that actually mean? So we are not going to discover that on this video, or we will go on for the next 3 hours. So I believe this is going to be the beginning of a series on talking on your area of expertise, Edwin, because you took over, let's call it the Energyverse. And I want to break that down. So let's break that down over the next few chats. And to finish this video off, tell us what were then your biggest takeaways from this year's Mobile World Congress.
Well, as I already mentioned in my introduction and answering your opening question, the way that we as an industry, and that's specifically driven by organizations like GSMA, who are organizing this Mobile World Congress, are good examples towards other industry event-related organizations like Smart City Expo World Congress, for example, at the same venue in Barcelona or anywhere else in the world. Other gatherings of large amounts of people in a safe and a sound and a well-managed and organized environment for each and all of us, on-site and off-site, online and offline. Also safe and secure online. Maybe not from a pandemic point of view, but from a secure converged connection point of view, a high available and stable connection. That is one key takeaway. Another key takeaway, of course, is that if you look at all the organizations that were at Mobile World Congress, as diverse as they are, and as maybe competing as they are, they all also have one thing in common, and that is this mutual drive and this mutual ambition to create solutions that provide or that tap into a more carbon neutral environment that supports the journey of energy transition, that is using digital power and digital technology to as a tool to drive that, to achieve that. A shared agenda almost, from an ambition point of view, without all of them even knowing it. But you can find the organizations that by nature perhaps compete or work against each other for whatever reason. But you can also find all the key messages that are all spreading out there that are all aiming towards the same direction, because it all looks at the same direction. That means we are standing side by side. We're not facing each other head to head, but we are shoulder to shoulder, facing in the same direction, and we all are embarking on this journey. That creates a worldwide, a nationwide, a regional wide, that creates a global initiative. A global initiative. And that is supported with global broadband infrastructures, that is supported by global communication and high-end computing networks. But it is powered by an already global energy infrastructure. And as I said before, what I've also seen is that in most journeys, the idea is to not only to not pass certain stages, but to reach certain stages. For example, smart grid is a very good example in this one. Most of the drivers, most of the programs and initiatives for this journey is to create a smart grid. And that's where I take a different turn in the role that I have and in the responsibility that comes along with it. I'm saying the conventional grid does not need to be transformed to a smart grid, because the smart grid itself is not what it needs to be. That's not where the power of it sits. Smart grid is a stage that you have to pass through on the way to a worldwide web of energy, to a energy internet, or as I call it, the Energyverse.
Absolutely.
And that is what I've seen. That is what I've seen at Mobile World Congress as well. It is carried by such thoughts. It is driven by such ideas, and it's driven by organizations with a passion towards that point to and what is to be aspired, I would say. And the last one is, of course, that this is not it. The changes and the transformation of each industry itself is not. So let me make it very clear and pragmatic, maybe even in using other choice of words. Another thing that I've clearly seen is that in the past, Mobile World Congress was about mobile networks, mobile technology, mobile operators, and all that. And it is moving away from that. It is not about mobile networks anymore. It is about mobility. Mobility of systems, mobility of people, mobility of goods, mobility of services, mobilities within different industries. The patient journey in the healthcare industry becomes more mobile. There is more mobility towards that. Payments, there is more mobility in payment, or in money, or in funding and financing and currency related stuff. There is also mobility in energy. You know, the way how energy is being generated and how energy is being transported or transmitted versus being stored for a while and moved to another direction. An electronic car, for example, is a very good example of a new thought, that this car or this truck that's electric, as it drives, it becomes a transporter of energy. So energy transportation, energy storage, energy distribution. It is all about mobility. So the Mobile World Congress is a mobility congress, a congress about mobility. That is also a strong change that I've seen in the past years, but physically now at this Mobile World Congress 2022.
Absolutely. And this is what we call evolution. Mobile World Congress has been around for about 3 decades. So they couldn't just be stagnant as well, because this is what technology and evolution are about. How do you take mobile, or the meaning of mobile, to the next level. And we definitely saw that with everything you've just explained, and robotics, displays, literally every single of the 7 halls that we had this year had something that made you go, wow, this is definitely more than mobile. So there you have it, guys. GSMA's flagship event, Mobile World Congress, or we should rename it Mobility World Congress, truly made an impact this year. And I cannot wait to get back in 2023 to discover how much we have evolved over the next 12 months. So thank you, Edwin, for your time today. We have definitely kicked off a chat this year to continue the evolution of the Energyverse. So until then, this is Elise Quevedo. Until next time, thank you, Edwin.